There's no such thing as tickets in Hosur. You can do what you want. How would you like to drive on roads like that? Those of you who've been to Spicer College, you know that at the end of your course, you write a comprehensive exam and you appear for oral comprehensives, right? How many of you have done those oral comprehensives? Okay, there are a number of you. It was my privilege to ask questions when I was 26 years on the faculty, but yes, I also faced that at one time. And you know, I have found that everyone who's done that oral comprehensives can remember the questions that they were asked and who asked those questions. Well, there was an African student there once, and I asked him, what will you miss most from India when you go back home? I didn't know what to expect. I thought he may say samosas or gulab jamuns or something. But he said, the traffic. I will miss the traffic. So I said, what do you miss? What will you miss about Indian traffic? And he said, it's so orderly. I said, what? He said, your traffic is so orderly. I said, and what's it like back home? He said, oh, everybody goes at full speed on any side of the road and doing whatever they want, and it's terrible. And I thought, if India was orderly, I could imagine what it was like in his place. But no rules. How would you like to drive where there are no rules? How would you like to play a game where there are no rules? Have you ever tried? I've seen kids playing badminton sometimes where there was no net. Okay, let's say there's a net but no lines. Is it easy way to play? Have you played football or soccer where there were no lines, where for the goal post you had only stones on the ground? How easy was it to determine whether you had scored a goal or not? And was it without argument or was it with arguments? Where there are no rules, where there are no lines, where there are no goal posts which are clear, it can be very confusing and it can lead to a lot of misunderstanding. And so I imagine that a person who had lived a life or in a place where there were no rules, when he got to a place where there were rules, where there were traffic lights, where there were lines to show you where you should be, he would say, it's sweeter than the honeycomb. Now, missing a mark or sinning assumes that there is a law. Sin also assumes that there is penalty for the law. And if you have laws and there are no penalties for breaking the laws, such as in Hosur for breaking all the traffic rules, no penalties, it's not really like there is any such thing as sin. But the Bible tells us, Romans 3:23, and you know that verse, all have sinned and come short of glory of God. All. Every human being sinned. Who then is going to go to heaven? Do we have to live a life that is free of rule breaking in order to qualify to go to heaven? Is that possible? Has there ever lived anyone? Can God expect us to live without sinning? There's one of my favorite persons in the Bible, and you've heard that he is the one that I studied for my doctoral dissertation, but nothing complicated. What does the Bible say about him? He was blameless and upright. What picture do you have of Job? Was he one of those saints who had never ever sinned? Or was he a person like us? You know, if you picture Job as one of those who had never ever sinned, then the story doesn't have anything more than appeal for us. You know, you're putting someone up on a pedestal and it's just entertainment for you. But if you think that Job was a person like us, a human being who faced temptations, who made mistakes, then there is hope for all of us to be like he was. If you are one of those who thinks that he never ever sinned, let me help you take him off that pedestal. Because Job himself says things like, and I won't burden you with all of these texts, but yes, there's a place where he asks God, why don't you forgive my sins and pardon my transgressions? That doesn't sound like a man who's never ever sinned. Chapter 13, verse 26, he says, why don't you pardon the sins of my youth? You know, many of us, when we were young people, made a lot more mistakes than we make now. Yes, in his youth, he had sinned and asked God, are you holding me accountable for those things that I did when I was a young person? Chapter 14, verse 16 says, why don't you seal up my offenses in a bag? And so I would like to submit that Job was not one who had never ever sinned, and yet God could call him blameless and upright. But there are more Bible characters, and I'd like to direct you to Noah, chapter 6, verse 9, where God says that Noah was a man blameless. Noah, blameless, never ever sinned. Had he hit the center of that target every time? Do you know anything wrong that Noah did? Yes, say it loud. He got drunk. Noah got drunk. And you know, when you get drunk, you can do all kinds of silly things. And Noah did something silly. Yeah, a drunkard. One of the first to plant a vineyard and drink. And then Abraham, chapter 17, verse 1, God tells Abraham, if you walk in my ways and are blameless, then I will multiply your seed and give you all of these things and so on. And God fulfilled all of that. Abraham, blameless, hit the center of that target every time. You know anything wrong that Abraham did? Let's hear it. What did he do wrong? Lied. Lied. Any of you never lied? Abraham's our father. What else did Abraham do wrong? Sorry? Second, some say third also. But yes, Abraham, you know, he's called the father of faith. But the very fact that he lied about his wife tells me that he lacked faith. And God delivered him, and yet, in another instance, he lied again, same thing. And yet he can be called the father of faith and blameless. So we have a drunkard, we have a liar, and then we have David. 1 Kings chapter 3, verse 14. God says about David, he was a man after my own heart. He obeyed my rules and my regulations. David, upright, a man after God's own heart, obeying his rules and his regulations. You know anything wrong David did? Was he one who hit the center of that target every time? What did he do wrong? Let's hear it. Adulterer and murderer, oh boy. So here we have people called blameless and upright, and one is a drunkard, and one is a liar, and one's an adulterer and murderer. Man, if those guys are blameless, I wonder what God would call me or you. Aren't we better than these guys? Well, maybe not. We're all in the same boat. So if there is hope, if God can call those people blameless, upright, people after their own heart, perhaps he can do that for us. I don't think we can get worse than these heroes of the faith. How then can God say all have sinned and yet call some people blameless and upright? This is one text that I will share with you this evening, even though I've referred to many, and you are acquainted with this text also, Romans chapter 5, and I'm going to read for you verses 18 and 19. Romans chapter 5, verses 18 and 19. Therefore, as by the offense of one judgment came upon all men to condemnation, even so by the righteousness of one, the free gift came upon all men unto justification of life. For as by one man's disobedience many were made sinners, so by the obedience of one shall many be made righteous. Jesus hit the center of that target, the bullseye. Bang, straight in the center. The very, as center as you could get. And you know what? The scores that he made all of those points that he scored, he counts for us. And that is why these people in the Bible, with all of the mistakes they had made, could be called righteous, blameless, and upright. And no matter what wrongs we have done in our past, I don't think it can get worse than murdering, committing adultery, telling lies, losing faith, whatever. All of that can be swept under the carpet, put away, covered by Christ's perfect robe of righteousness, and his perfect score can be counted for us. He never missed that target, and that credit can be yours